We begin with the definition of macro. Okay, in the book System Programming and Operating System, the author Damdare describes or defines macro to be a unit of specification for program generation through the concept of expansion. Okay, that means lines of codes are generated using the concept of expansion. Okay, program generation means lines of code are being generated. Okay, and we get these lines of code through the concept of expansion. So a macro basically consists of three things. It consists of a name, because our program can have more than one macro, and we need to know which macro we are actually referencing. So a macro consists of a name. It consists of a set of formal parameters. Okay, so these formal parameters are actually when we do a macro call, the formal parameters will be replaced by actual parameters, and then we have this body of code. Okay, that is the lines of code within the macro, okay, which should appear in the expansion. Okay, so a macro consists of a name, a set of formal parameters, and a body of code. Okay, so if you are familiar with C program, okay, this is an example of a preprocessor statement. Okay, or it is an example of a macro. Okay, so this hash define, which is present in C, gives us this concept of macro in C. It's called as a C preprocessor statement. So what it says is that I am defining a macro whose name is pi, and the body of the macro consists of a single line, that is 3.142. Okay, so this means that wherever pi appears in our program, we are going to replace by this number 3.1412. Okay, so this is an example of a macro in C. Okay, in C we can also define a macro like this. Okay, so we can write hash define cube of x given by x star x star x, that is finding the cube of a number. Okay, in this case the name of the macro happens to be known as cube. Then this is a formal parameter. X happens to be a formal parameter, and this x, which is multiplied 3 times, happens to be the body of the code. So in my program, when I make this call to this macro cube, I make a macro call using the name of the macro. So when we do that, we pass a parameter, that is I want to find the cube of 2. So x will be replaced by 2, so 2 becomes your actual parameter. So x is your formal parameter that is getting replaced by your actual parameter when you make a call. Okay, so these are examples of macro or preprocessor statements in your C program. Okay, now going forward, okay, there is this concept of a macro expansion. Okay, so the use of a macro name with a set of actual parameters is replaced by some code generated from its body. So this is what happened here. So if I go back and see this example of hash define cube of x, where the body of the code is x multiplied by x multiplied by x, and this is our macro call. So when I write the name of the macro, okay, so then I am making a macro call. So this macro call consists of a formal consists of the actual parameter. This line is going to be replaced by the body of the macro, and in place of x it is going to be replaced by 2. So when a macro preprocessor works through this code, this line would be converted of the form y is equal to 2 into 2 into 2. It would be evaluated and the value would be assigned to y. So this is what happens in macro expansion. So I have to use the macro name, I have to send actual parameters, okay, and this actual parameter will replace the formal parameter, and some code will be generated from the body of the macro. Okay, so that x multiplied by x multiplied by x was the body of the macro, and from that we are getting this code as 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. Okay, now two kinds of expansion takes place, because see, the definition, it says that program generation through the concept of expansion. So when I expand, lines are being generated. So when I say cube of 2, that is getting replaced by 2 into 2 into 2. So code is being generated through the concept of expansion. There are two kinds of expansion. One is the lexical expansion, okay, that is replacement of a character string by another character string during program generation. So if you look at the previous example, we see that x was being replaced by 2. So one string is getting replaced by another string. So that is nothing but our lexical expansion. And there is another kind of expansion called as semantic expansion. Okay, semantic expansion means the generation of instructions tailored to the requirements of a specific usage. See, so we always think that macro consists of lines of code, or the body of the macro consists of lines. Okay, so whenever I make a macro call, all those lines will be in the expanded code. That is not the case. According to my requirement, some lines may not be generated at all, or one line may be repeated multiple times. So based on my need or based on my requirement, certain lines can become a part of the expanded code, or certain lines within that macro body can be totally ignored and need not be present in our expanded code. So when we do that, it is called as semantic expansion. Okay, now what we are trying to do here is to define a macro, or to see how the author defines a macro. Say for example, I want to increment the value present in a memory word by a constant. Okay, so if there is a memory which is referenced by a symbol a, and there is a constant which is placed in a memory location referenced by the name b, so I want to increment the value of that number present in a by this constant which is referenced by b, then I will have to make use of three instructions. Okay, first thing, I'll have to move the value from memory word into machine register. So I'll have to move the value of a into a register. Then I would increment the value in the machine register. Okay, using this add statement, I will add the constant value to this content that is present in my register, and then I will move that new value after the addition takes place and the result is stored in the register. I will place it back into a. Okay, so what are the instructions that we use? We need a move, we need an add, and we need a move. Once move into the memory, once move first into the register, add that value by this constant, and then move that content of register back into that memory. Now if I want to do this statement like at least 10 places in my program, so these three lines have to be included. Okay, these three lines have to be included at all those locations where I wish to do this kind of increment. Okay, so now actually basically what happens is it will increase the lines of code in your program. So if we can avoid this by writing a macro, so I will write this macro only once and I will call it as many times I want. Okay, so we can define a macro and say for example I give the name of the macro as INCR. Okay, so this is how we have defined the macro. Okay, so this is a macro. This INCR is the name of the macro. So there are three things. There is a memory word that needs to be updated by a constant, and I'm using a register. So we have three formal parameters. The first parameter is memval. Second parameter is INCR val, the constant by which we are incrementing. Okay, and reg happens to be the register that I am using. Okay, now there were three lines. First I have to move the content from the memory into the register. Okay, second I have to add the contents of register with that constant value, and third I will move the content. Now we have got an updated value. That memory word that is being referenced by a has been updated or has been incremented by a certain constant. I'm going to take that value which is present in the register and place it in memory, place it into the memory, the word that is being referenced by a. Okay, and then we have this ment statement. Okay, so if you look at our macro, okay, we've got this macro keyword called as the header, and this is the macro ment. So this word macro tells us that the macro begins from here, and men tells us that it is an end of the macro. Okay, the first line following this keyword macro is called as a prototype statement. The prototype statement actually consists of name of the macro followed by a list of parameters, if any. So if there are formal parameters being used in our macro, then they are being defined or declared at this particular prototype statement. Okay, so the prototype statement contains the name of the macro, in which case, or in this case, it is INCR, and it contains a list of parameters. So this macro is having 3 parameters. These are formal parameters, and there is a type for this parameter. Okay, so they can be either of positional parameter kind, or they can be of keyword parameter kind, or they could be parameters with default value kind. Okay, so we'll see that later on what are the types of parameters. Right now, it can say that or assume that it has 3 parameters, 3 formal parameters, and their type is positional. Okay, now these lines, this move R, add, and move M, are the lines of code within the body of your macro. Okay, and these are called as model statements. Okay, so what do we mean by model statements? So when I make a macro call to this macro called as INCR, it will generate assembly language lines. Okay, so these the formal parameter will get replaced by actual values, and the resultant line will be an assembly language program line. So that kind of line is called as a model statement. So model statements are statements from which we are going to get assembly language code during expansion. Okay, and we could also have preprocessor statements within this macro. They are not there, but later on when we study we will get to know them. Okay, now if I have to make a macro call to this particular macro, say I want to increment the value present in A by a constant B, and I want it to use the A register, then I'll have to make a macro call like this, which is present over here. So first I have to write the name of the macro, which macro I want to call, INCR, followed by the memory word. So the for memval, which is the formal parameter, the actual value is A. That means wherever memval will appear, it will get replaced by A during the expansion, and wherever INCR valve is there, it will get replaced by B, and then wherever register is there, it will get replaced by A register during the expansion. So these are your actual values, and these are your formal values, which are going to be replaced by your actual parameters. Okay, now what is the difference between macro and versus subroutines? It is simply a case of execution efficiency versus program size. Okay, so who is more efficient and who takes more size? Obviously macros basically increase the lines of code in your program. Okay, so when it comes to program size, subroutines are smaller. Okay, because a call is made and the transfer is made to that particular line. Okay, so if you look at macro and function, they are very similar. I can write the function once, even I'm going to write the macro once. Okay, and I can call as many times as I want, but whenever a macro gets called, it is getting replaced, that call is getting replaced by a single line or a sequence of lines. Whereas in subroutine case, only the control is transferred from one line, from one function to the other. Okay, so in this case, when we look at the program size, obviously macros increase the size of the code. That is not the case in the case of subroutines. But in subroutines, okay, but when it comes to efficiency, macros are more efficient than your subroutines, because when I make when there is a transfer call, like suppose I make a function call and the control is transferred from one function to another, a stack has to be prepared, all the contents have to be pushed onto the stack of the calling function, then the control will transfer to the called function, and then it will execute that. Once the called function is finished, it has to go back to the calling function, so the contents of the stack have to be popped out. So there is a slight decrease in the efficiency. So when it comes to execution efficiency in macros are comparatively better than subroutines. Okay, Right. Now this is basically how do we write a macro and what is the syntax to write the macro. We've already seen it. It's just that it's just a repetition of whatever we've seen so far. I'll just say here. So if you have a macro definition that is enclosed between a macro header, that is the keyword macro, and we have a macro end statement. So all those lines that appear between the keyword macro and mend, all those lines that were there, including the prototype and the model statements, all of them form the macro definition. Okay, and typically macros will be present at the beginning of the program. This is not an absolute essential. Macro can appear anywhere in your program, but most of the time we see programmers writing macro at the beginning of the program. Okay, now it consists of a prototype statement. I told you what a prototype statement is. It consists of the name of the macro followed by a list of parameters. So that is how the syntax is. We write the macro name followed by a formal parameter specification. So square bracket means it is not compulsory, it is optional. That means it may be present, may not be present, and they are separated by commas. Then the macro definition can consist of model statements. These are statements from which assembly language statements will be generated during expansion. Okay, and also you could have macro preprocessor statements. So the example that I showed did not consist of any preprocessor statements. I told you it is not absolutely essential that during expansion the entire body of the macro be part of the expanded code. There may be some lines which I do not want to be part of the code, or there may be some lines which I want to be repeatedly written in my expanded code. If that is the case, I have to make use of preprocessor statements like a if or a go, or I need to use sequencing symbols. So those also can be part of our macro. Okay, so those also can be part of the macro, and they are called as macro preprocessor statements. Okay, so how do we make a macro call? The example already showed you how to make a macro call. First I will write the name of the macro, and if the list of parameters have to be passed, then the actual parameters have to be passed. They are placed. Again, if you look at the syntax, the actual parameter specification happens to be in square bracket. Square bracket means it is not absolutely essential that actual parameters always accompany the macro name in the macro call. So we could have macros where there are no formal arguments present. I just want to substitute one line with another line. In that case, there will be no parameters. Okay, but if the macro contains parameters, then how do we make a macro call? I need to write the name of the macro followed by a list of your actual parameters. Okay. Next comes the concept of expansion. Okay, so whenever I write a macro call, the macro call would lead to macro expansion. Okay, so what do you mean by the macro expansion? That macro call statement will be replaced by a sequence of assembly statements. So when I make a macro call, that single line will be replaced by either a single line or a sequence of lines. So when I make this expansion, when a macro call is being replaced by a single line or a sequence of lines, we represent them, or those lines are preceded by a plus indicating that these are actually a macro expanded statements. Okay, so there are two key notions that you need to know. One is the expansion time control flow. Okay, what is this expansion time control flow? Which this basically determines the order in which the model statements are visited during macro expansion. So when there are lines of code within your macro, how do we visit these lines? Do we do them sequentially, or do I skip a line and then move to the next line? So that is explained with the notion of expansion time control flow, because I told you it's not necessary that every single line that is present within the body of the macro will be placed in the expanded code. Okay, and the second notion is lexical substitution. So what is it? It is basically used to generate an assembly statement from a model statement. So like I showed you in the previous example, so if I can go back, this Okay, so when I replace these formal parameters by the actual values, what happens is from this line, this is a model statement line. Okay, so I told you when I make a macro call like incr a comma b and a register, memval is getting the value of a, incr val is getting the value of b, and register is getting the value of a register. So during expansion, this line becomes move r a register comma a. Okay, because formal parameters get replaced by actual parameters. Okay, so that is what this particular line was telling. Okay, these are used to generate an assembly statement from a model statement. So from the model statement, during the when I expand it, I am getting an assembly language statement. Okay, now what is the flow of control? So because look here, this expansion time control flow tells us how the lines within that macro body are to be visited. Okay, do I visit them sequentially, or do I skip a line? Do I skip 2 lines? Okay, or do I go back? Okay, so all that is explained with this macro expansion, that is flow of control. Okay, by default the flow of control is sequential in nature unless it is not mentioned, unless I have not used preprocessor statements like AF and AGO. Like if I had to tell you what is AF, that is I will test a condition, based on the condition I will go to a certain line, or I could use a statement like AGO where without testing any condition I am going to a certain line, like your go to statement in C. Okay, unless and until I find such statements, the default flow of control is sequential in nature. Okay, so I can either alter this flow using conditional expansion, or I can use it using or I can change it using expansion time loop. That means I am always going to follow this sequential flow, one line after the other, unless and until I have come across statements like AF where if the condition is true, only then I go to a certain statement, or I could use the concept of expansion time loops where I would like to visit a certain statement more than once. Okay, so if that is the case, then I'll have to go back and visit that statement and make it part of your expanded code. Otherwise the flow is sequential in nature. The data structure that we need to use is a macro expansion counter. So the macro expansion counter basically keeps track of, okay, which line we are visiting within that body of your macro. Okay, because I could have statements like AF and AGO which will actually change the sequential expansion. Okay, so it will make us to skip a line, or it will make us visit a line repeatedly. So that is how do I keep track of that, which line to visit, using this counter called as MEC, that is macro expansion counter, this data structure. So the algorithm is very simple. We always set the MEC to the first statement, okay, following the prototype statement, okay, till the statement has not, till the MENT statement has not been read. Okay, if it is a model statement, I simply expand the statement and write it in the expanded code preceded by a plus, okay, and increment MEC by 1. Otherwise, if it is a preprocessor statement, like if I have an AF where I'm testing a condition, or an AGO, it is where is unconditional branching, then I will change that MEC depending upon whatever value has been specified in the statement. So basically AF and AGO statements which will change the sequential flow tell us which line to exactly go to, okay, where exactly to go to. Okay, so based on that I will change this MEC. So this MEC gets updated, okay, either sequentially if it is simply a model statement, but if it's a preprocessor statement, it is going to get a new value. Okay, we'll do these 2 lines unless and until I encounter the MET. Okay, and then we will do, and then we will get exit from the macro expansion. So if I have to go back to this example, what it means is, so if I make this macro call incr a comma b a register, so I will MEC will first point to this move r, and I will take this and make it a part of the expanded code by replacing formal parameters with actual values. So first I will write move r a comma a register comma a, then after that MEC will be incremented by 1, because these are model statements, there are no preprocessor statements, so flow will be sequential in nature. So then I will do this statement in the expanded form, in the expansion, then automatically I'll go to the next one till such a time I encounter MEN. But if in these, between these 3 lines there was a preprocessor statement, then that MEC value will change, and based on that changed value I have to go to that line during the expansion. Okay, so as and how when we do later on, we'll see how to do that expansion. Okay, so this is the algorithm for expansion. Okay, so here I will say that here just look at the model statement. So what are model statements? These are statements within the macro. On expansion, they will generate assembly language statements, and these model statements basically consist of three strings. One is an ordinary string which represents itself. One is a formal parameter which is replaced by an actual value during expansion, and it also can consist of a preprocessor variable. Okay, and these are replaced by values of preprocessor variables. So the last part will be seen later on, but I can show you these two, ordinary string and formal parameter. So going back to this example, okay, so we see here this example again. Okay, so move r is an ordinary string which represents itself. So that means in the expansion, move r will be written as move r only. Okay, whereas this one, this register, okay, the register is this part of your substitution. Okay, it is this formal parameter. There could be a formal parameter which is preceded by this ampersand, and this formal parameter gets replaced by actual value or actual parameter during the expansion. So if I go back to this particular example, so what it tells you is that this register over here will be replaced by a register. Okay, so during expansion, move r is an ordinary string and represents itself during expansion. So when I'm expanding, move r will be move r itself, but ampersand register will not be ampersand register in expansion. It will actually be a register, and for memory val will be actually A, and INCR val will be B, because if you look at the prototype statement, first is mem val, second is INCR val, and third is register. And if you look at the macro call, first is A, then B, and A register. That means mem val takes the value A during the expansion, INCR val takes the value B during expansion, and reg takes the value of A register during expansion. If I change this to INCR C, D register, then mem val will take the value of C during expansion, INCR will take the value D during expansion, and register will take the whatever register we have written here. If I've written a C register, then C. If it's a D register, then D. Okay, so this is what this is about the basic things related to macro.